Hello and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sent,
I'm Axion.
and we are continuing our discussion of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, the Final Empire, while we play through The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons. So, last time we talked about intrigue, and the wheels within wheels within wheels within wheels. We basically got biblically accurate angels as far as plans go, and no one is communicating with each other, which kind of makes it really hard to be able to trust the people around you, doesn't it?
That would make things extremely difficult to manage, especially in a criminal organization where you need to be able to, at least to some degree, trust the people around you because they have secrets and access to information and other things that could be dangerous for you.
Oh, not necessarily. You don't actually have to trust anybody. Just ask Vin. She was definitely raised to trust absolutely no one, and basically spends the entire novel trying to get over that. But yeah, growing up in a world like Scadrial, especially when you hang out with people who are constantly scheming, which is basically everybody that we've encountered over the course of the story, you're probably going to have a hard time trusting people.
I mean,
so yeah, we're talking
do.
about trust issues, among other things.
Yep.
So, as we mentioned, Vin does not know how to trust people. Mostly because, well, she was pretty much raised by her half-brother, who told her that she couldn't trust anybody, and then proved it by just straight up vanishing one day and leaving her deeply in debt to Cayman, so she had no choice but to continue working for his crew. And when we see her, she spends pretty much all of her time keeping the rest of the crew at arm's length, trying to stay out of sight from them, wondering if they're going to attack or assault her one way or another. Not really a great life to live. Therefore, she spends a good chunk of the early parts of the story finding Kelsier's crew, who behave like relatively normal people with a functional relationship, too good to be true and highly suspicious. Oh, there's also the fact that, Vin's mother was reportedly insane and killed her baby sister, and Reen took her and ran so they wouldn't get, killed themselves.
Which is generally, the kind of thing to do when you're in that situation.
Yup.
There we go.
But yeah, as a result, Vin, despite being ridiculously OP, still finds it just better to go unnoticed whenever she can. Just shrink back and be unobtrusive, because if people don't notice you, they can't use you, they can't abuse you. And abuse is something she knows a lot about. The aforementioned half-brother Reen also, Vin pretty much offhandedly mentions that he regularly beat her for apparently no reason, though he would claim it would be to toughen her up. Because when Kelsier mentions that they're going to be meeting his brother, and she can pick up that they don't really get along, she asks, oh, he's your older brother, did he beat you? No. Oh, you made him stop. She just doesn't understand the idea that people can have siblings that don't have an abusive relationship. Which is really sad.
Yep. But it's not an uncommon way to feel for someone in Vin's position.
Yep, and as a result of everything she's been through, when Vin finally lets her guard down enough to become really part of Kelsier and see the others as friends, she's kind of terrified that they're going to leave her, and as a result of Kelsier's ultimate plan, her fears are kind of confirmed when Kelsier dies, because, well, that's a way of leaving. Even though we learn later in the story that one of the sources of this is the fact that Reen ditched her, he didn't actually ditch her. He got taken in for questioning by the by the Inquisitors about the Obligators, and died under torture, refusing to give up her location.
Yep.
So, while it must have definitely seemed like he abandoned her, he didn't. So, yeah, complicated relationship there. Abuser, but also protector, which is always a great dynamic to have, but in Luthadel, honestly, it was probably the best she could have hoped for with their situation. Further proof that the Lord Ruler needed to go.
I wish he'd say where he went to train, but I'm guessing it's back with that punchy guy, and I don't remember where his house is.
Me neither.
Is it down this way?
But Vin, while she's the most prevalent example of this, isn't the only one. Further trust issues we can see with Kelsier, at least in reference to his capture and imprisonment.
Here we are.
So, Kelsier, along with his wife, were captured in the middle of a heist, and the Lord Ruler looked at his wife Mare and thanked her for giving away their location. We later learn that this is most likely because he had the ability to pierce the copper cloud they had up to detect her allomancy, but that meant up to her death, Kelsier was never sure if she had betrayed him or not. Which ultimately led to her giving her life for him by giving him the ATM that would keep him alive that week when she'd only found the one. So Kelsier's a little bit messed up from that.
Just a tad.
But yeah, it's kind of a recurring thing that people keep bringing up that betrayal and questioning whether or not it happened, just in little ways throughout the story. So, losing your trust in the person closest to you has got to be one of the worst feelings that you can have. She didn't drop much that time.
There were a couple other things, but they fell in the water.
Ah, that would do it. On that note, there's also, you can look at the relationship between Kelsier and Marsh, where they clearly do not communicate well, and that's mostly Kelsier not communicating well. You can hardly blame Marsh for not really trusting him and questioning his motives, because, let's be fair, Kelsier needs some more questions in his life.
Yep.
But ultimately, we do see that they do care for each other, because when Kelsier is led to believe that Marsh has been killed by the Inquisitors, his vengeance is swift and brutal. And he, again, destroys the Pits of Halfshin, which are themselves a source of immense abuse. Like, it's said to be like a prison that no one escapes from. It's just a, we're gonna work you to death camp. And by work you to death, we mean beat you to death if you don't find anything. So, the entire Empire's economy is built on literal abuse and slavery. So, you know, there's that.
Yup.
But, one other clear example that we see, aside from the obvious that we've already been through about 75 million times at this point of the abuse of the nobility of the Ska class, is that of Elend. Elend is in kind of an odd position. He's privileged because he's the heir to the most successful at this time house. He could have a lot of political influence, but he's kind of an oddball, and he and his father do not get along. And while we've only talked about Strathventure a little bit here and there, mostly summarizing things as he sucks, which is, I mean, not inaccurate, but it's kind of like saying that the ocean has a little bit of salt in it. Am I wrong?
No. But,
It's like,
as you said, it's a severe understatement.
yeah, like, we don't really see physical abuse from Strath to Elend, at least not in this novel, but we do definitely see emotional abuse. Like, belittles him constantly, clearly doesn't think he's worth the investment of anything, and is more than willing to leave him behind in the wreckage of Luthadel when the revolution actually kicks off as the fall guy for the Lord Ruler to take everything out on without a compunction of conscience, and also, colludes to plan his assassination, we can kind of guess.
Certainly gives that impression.
Yeah. There's also what Elend had mentioned of the incident with the Scott prostitute that he was not on board with, but kind of forced into by his father, and he had no idea that the woman was going to be killed afterwards. So that's kind of a lot to dump on a 13-year-old kid's head.
Yep.
So, yeah, you could call that sexual abuse. I would. Hey, it's your friend.
Yep. I'm waiting for her to drop the piece of heart again.
But, yeah, so, as you can see, like, basically everybody's got some trust issues, and a good chunk of the people, even in quote-unquote great positions in society, have had some pretty severe issues with regards to abuse, and that is itself going to greatly change the way you view the society you live in. If that's something that becomes, like, acceptable in some way or another, or at least normalized, you're definitely going to see things differently. And sometimes that can radicalize you. I mean, I certainly did with Ska, and to some extent Elend, who's willing to entertain the idea that maybe there's not an actual difference between the Ska and nobility like everybody says there is. And now, it's not 100% clear if that's a direct result of Strath's treatment of him, but I don't think it's completely out of left field.
You have to do this just right, I think. And I'm not doing it. Ah.
Well, I'm kind of running out of steam on the discussion, so do you maybe want to pause and see if you can figure out the better way to jump?
Yeah. We'll look this up between episodes. And, but I found the way to go! That was the problem last time. Alright, we'll see you all next time.
Later.